Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, fine. So we'll be talking about waste management. Fine. So yes, solid waste is basically we are going to talk about here. So we need to understand, what is the main concern associated with solid waste. Now, why do we have to study the dedicated management of the solid waste? Why it cannot be managed automatically by virtue of Mother Nature? So that is what we are going to see. Now, the practice which we are doing right now, as far as solid waste generation and management is concerned, was not there similar, 100 years back. So what has happened is because of you know rapid industrialization and as well as the population explosion. What has happened is when you have huge population, you need there is a huge demand of the commodities which is required to be produced, and as a result more and more industries came up. And during the process, when we are doing something, uh, there will be some byproducts or waste of any process. Now nature has its own, you know overall, I would say, like procedure by which it can manage all the associated activities so that nature remains intact all the time. So that is why we often say that nature takes care of itself. However, what has happened is because of this man-made you know industries and it's not only industries like population explosion, another one thing, then comes industries. What has happened is the generation of waste has been much more than what can nature manage by itself. And that is when the necessity to manage municipal solid waste came into the picture. So you know right now we need to understand, like, the when we say municipal solid waste, what does exactly it mean, and when we say solid waste, what does exactly it mean. Then comes, why do we need to uh, manage solid waste, how much amount of solid waste we are generating every day, what are the different type of solid waste, and what can be done with it. So these are the things which we will be discussing. So if you see in any sectors, let it be agricultural, commercial, domestic, industrial, or institutional, there will be some rejected materials, and those rejected materials, if it is if the material is in a state of solid, then that can be called as solid materials or solid rejected materials. Now the considerable volume of waste therefore generated and rejected is called as solid waste. Fine. In other words, we can say that solid wastes are the waste arising from human and animal activities that are normally solid and are discarded as useless or unwanted. So any activities associated with human being or any other animal leaves some amount of or some quantity of rejected material, and that is nothing but solid waste. Now what has happened is when the volume of solid waste kept on increasing, after a certain point of time, it demanded huge amount of area to be dumped. It demanded, technology to be managed and to be decomposed, because nature could not do it after a certain level of after a certain quantity. So there comes, the necessity to infuse or inculcate new techniques to enhance the rate of decompositions. So that is why, because of so many, you have so much illegal mining, you have so much, construction demolitions. So because of that, in each and every activity creates some amount of solid waste. So what should be done with these, that is the main focus of this particular course. Now, same things, whatever I have discussed, I have actually mentioned over here. You can see that heterogeneous not transported by water, as sewage contains mostly putrescible waste. So that is very true, and that is when we talk about, decomposition. And when we talk about municipal solid waste, it does not include the wastes from the industrial processes, construction and demolition debris, sewage sludges, mining waste, or agricultural waste. However, all these different type of wastes and their management will be done with the same philosophy. Now, when I say exactly municipal solid waste, it contains, food waste, different type of food waste, whatever we consume every day, and then after consumption, whatever are the leftover. So that might be some food item, that might be some meat material, that might be some vegetables, that might be some milk product material which has been kept as leftover. So those all are called as, municipal solid waste. And at the same time, if you see, we have different plastics, papers, cans, newspaper, glass bottles, card boxes, aluminum foil, everything, whatever we actually dispose of each and every day, wooden pieces or, wooden boxes, wooden packages. So all of them can be called as municipal solid waste. So the municipal solid waste is generally used to describe most of the non-hazardous solid waste from the city, town, or village that requires routine collection, transport to a process, to a processing or disposal site. So that is what is called as municipal solid waste. Now, when I talk about solid waste, and then if when you talk about municipal solid waste, it is necessary to understand the composition of solid waste. Then, and once you understand that, you will be able to, recognize solid waste from other type of waste, municipal solid waste, to be specific. Now, in this particular table, we have given composition of different type of solid municipal solid waste. You can see here we have constituents in the left hand side column, and in the right hand side columns we have the percentage by weight of at the disposal site. So that is the percentage as a constituent, and that is the with respect to the whole. Fine. So mostly when we talk about municipal solid waste, and if you analyze that physically, you will see that it consists of garbage, rubbish. So rubbish includes paper, glass, rags, etc., ashes, and then we have fine dust, silt, and sand. Now, then density, calorific value are also given here, and as well as, what could be the percentage as far as Indian city is concerned has been given over here in the, the third column. And in the fourth column you can see the same composition and what would be their percentage. And from there you can understand one thing, depending upon the geography, depending upon the lifestyle, depending upon the culture, depending upon the living standards, uh, we have different composition, and that basically we have different classification, and that is what is very evident from the table which I have shown over here. You can see, like, for the same constituents are in different percentage in case of solid waste from municipal solid waste from US than, or with respect to India. So that is what is very important to remember. And later on, if we can discuss like what are the different factors on which the, you know municipal solid waste does vary. So this is this particular table would give you a very good idea about the average compositions. And then the next necessary part is to understand the solid waste classification, and there are different or several way the solid waste has been municipal solid waste has been classified, and we are going to talk about that now. Then in this case, we are going to talk about the solid waste classification. So not only municipal solid waste would come here, but all sort of solid waste which actually we are going to discuss. So it consists of any type of solid waste which we generate because of the activity of human being and animal. So this solid waste can be organic or inorganic waste material, and then it can have different hazardous property, it can have different toxic property, because we are not only talking about municipal solid waste, we are talking about any sort of solid waste. So among different type of classification schemes, the most or the predominant one is the source-based classification. Usually, we do source-based classification, and that includes first one is residential. So this refers to the waste from dwellings and apartments, and and we can give example such as leftover food, vegetable peels, plastic, clothes, ashes. These are the this different residential solid waste which we can consider while talking about municipal solid waste management. Next is institutional sorry commercial. So commercial are nothing but the waste which gets generated because from the heavy commercial areas like stores, restaurants, markets, hotels, motels, auto repair shops, and medical facilities. All these whatever I have named generate huge quantity or huge volume of solid waste, and that is what is known as commercial solid waste. Now if I have to give example of that, I'll again say leftover food, glasses, metals, assets, etc. Basically, they are the example of commercial, solid waste. Next is institutional solid waste. Now, this mainly consists of paper, plastic, glass, generated from educational, administrative, and public buildings such as school, college, and offices and prisons. So when you talk about waste generated from public buildings, then it becomes basically institutional solid waste. Next comes municipal solid waste. So this includes, dust, leafy matter, building debris, treatment plant residue, sludge, um, and they are generated from various municipal activities like construction, demolitions, street cleaning, landscaping. So municipal solid waste is basically it senses huge portion of the solid waste. And if you see in Indian municipal solid waste, we have the whatever we have discussed, residential, commercial, and institutional, all three will be seen in municipal solid waste. Fine. Next is industrial. Now, when we talk about industrial, so mainly we talk about the hazardous waste or inorganic waste. Now, in industry, areas or industries, what we see is it also generates huge amount of or huge quantity of solid waste, and that mainly consists of process waste, assets, demolition, and construction waste. So they are mostly hazardous in nature, and that is what we'll be naming under the head of industrial waste. Next is agricultural waste. Now, from when I say agricultural waste, I guess you all can relate with some pictures, and accordingly you can really, connect with why we are talking about agricultural waste. So this mainly consists of spoiled food grains and vegetables, agricultural remains, litters, and apart from that, you will have all those plants, which gets generated from the fields, orchards, vineyards. So these are the different type of agricultural waste. When you do agricultural activity, you will be able to see that this kind of waste would get generated, and that is what is known as agricultural waste. And so remember, there might be common source, and from various type of solid waste can be generated from various sources or by various processes, and they can be, some of them can be common to one or more classes of solid waste, but that doesn't matter much for us. It's done based on the source. Now the next classification which we are going to talk about is type based classification. Now here mostly we'll be talking about physical, chemical and biological characteristics of the waste, and considering that we'll be classifying them. So the first one is garbage. As you all know, so this refers to the animal and vegetable wastes. Fine. Now here we don't have that, but we have in type-based classification we have here biodegradable and non-biodegradable. So I'll come into that. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, so in type-based classification we have mainly garbage. So you might have seen, heard this word garbage. Most of the time we use for a different sense. Now garbage refers to animal or vegetable waste resulting from handling, sale, storage, preparation, cooking, and serving of food. Garbage comprising these waste contains, putrescible organic matter, so which actually gets rotted over a period of time, and which produce, obnoxious odor, and that can attract a lot of rodents and rats and other vermin. So it therefore requires special attention in storage, handling, disposal. Fine. Next is ashes and residues. So in type-based classification, ashes and residues, they are substances remaining from the burning of wood, coal, charcoal, coke, and other combustible waste or combustible materials from where waste is generated, and because of cooking or heating in house or in institution or industries, the ashes or residues can be generated. Fine. Now, when it is produced in large quantities, as in power generation plant and factories, these are classified as industrial waste. So, try to understand the difference. And ashes and residues can be called as industrial waste if it is generated in huge quantity or in huge scale. Now, these ashes and residues are all, entirely inorganic, and they can be used as landfilling material. Next is combustible and non-combustible waste. So you have different type of waste which gets easily combusted, or we can say that it can catch fire easily, and for some it is very difficult to catch fire. So like glass, crockery, tin, aluminum cans, ferrous or non-ferrous material, and dirt, it is difficult to set them in fire. So that is why we have combustible and non-combustible waste which are easily burnt in presence of fire is known as combustible, and which is and the other way is non-combustible waste. So you just try to remember this table, and this will give you a very good idea. So if we say type-based classification, based on the organic and inorganic aspect, it is categorized in two different classes. One is biodegradable, another one is non-biodegradable. So what is biodegradable? Biodegradable wastes mainly refer to the substances consisting of organic matter, such as leftover food, vegetable peels, vegetable and fruit peels, paper, textile, wood, etc. Now generated from various household and industrial activities. So the the main characteristics of biodegradable waste is that it is easily decomposed, and you can get it decomposed within very less time, because mostly organics are present into it. So anyway, we'll move because of the action of microorganisms. These wastes are degraded from complex to simpler compound, and non-biodegradable wastes consist of inorganic and recyclable materials such as plastic, glass, cans, metals. So based on that only we have actually here biodegradable and non-biodegradable category. Now under non-biodegradable category we have organic waste such as vegetable and fruit peels, leftover food stuff, paper, cotton cloth, woolen items, and wood. And you can see that corresponding, decomposition period in the right hand side, and it is very you can see that for all those vegetables and fruit peels and food leftovers, they are very easily decomposable, and that is why if you keep them more than one day in your residential dustbin, you can see that foul smell is emitting from that particular dustbin, since you have kept some waste which can get easily decomposed within 1 or 2 days, or maximum within a week or so. Now next is paper, so it takes around 10 to 30 days. So that is why papers usually do not create any problem as far as mail is concerned. However, this being an biodegradable, this will take more time compared to the food leftovers and organic waste, but still they will get decomposed. Next come cotton clothes. So cotton clothes is also biodegradable, and then it can take more time, such as 2 to 5 months. Now, wooden items usually takes up to 1 year, and then the wood log, that will also that takes usually 10 to 15 years. Now, these all are actually biodegradable, since most of the predominant uh, component is organic, so that is very easily decomposed. And now comes non-biodegradable. So here, the time of decomposition is very different or very huge compared to biodegradable. So the first one is steel, aluminum, or for that matter any metal, such a different type of cans which you usually get in the market, and it takes 100 to 500 years. And if you compare with whatever we have discussed in biodegradable, you will be able to understand why non-biodegradable is called for some different type of solid waste. Next is plastic bags. Now all of you know that it has a decomposition rate of 1 million years, so that is really huge. 10 lakhs year is it's huge. It can be considered as in geological scale. So that is why plastic bags are actually considered as not decomposable, and that is why we need to give special attention to the plastic waste when we actually are in a process of waste management. Non-biodegradable. Now next is plastic bags is done. Next is glass bottles. It's also undetermined, so it takes huge time, but or it will remain intact in its structure if you keep it for longer time, within one generation or two, there won't be any change or difference. And that is why you have to plan properly depending upon what type of waste you need to manage and maintain, and accordingly plan things, and how much time it takes, how much area is required, and so on. So next what we are going to talk about is municipal solid waste management. So this is also you know important part. Now we are discussing about types of solid waste. Now we need to understand what is solid waste management and how it is related to the overall waste generation, and basically the chain, how much waste is generated, and what is the link of that with the, or what is the relation to that with the municipal solid waste management. And then we have different aspect of management: storage, collection, transfer, process, and finally disposal. Now, so basically, management consists of all these different processes which I have mentioned, and the manner is that the sequence is also same which I have talked about. So first we collect, store, and then it is collected, and then you can, if you see in the scale of your own residence, you will understand it much better. What we do in the morning, we simply throughout the day it gets stored, and then in the morning simply we give it in, we put it in the garbage vehicle. So that is what is called as collection, and then finally it is transferred to a transfer station. So that is what is known as transfer and transport. Now after that, you just try to segregate different type of waste and then try to understand what is the components, the different components of that waste, and accordingly you can process them or you can modify them, and then whatever is not worth of processing can be disposed of in the solid waste landfill. And then, what we are telling here is best principle of public health, economics, engineering, conservation, aesthetics, public attitude, and other environmental considerations. So the idea of doing all these is nothing but to keep the environment clean. So there are different, I have written in point wise, you can check them, that will give you an idea about the objective of the municipal solid waste management. So the first one is protection of environmental health. How? I guess all of you should be able to realize that promotion of environmental quality. If you take care of the environment, if you promote environmental quality, that is always good for society and mankind. And municipal solid waste management endorses the promotion of environmental quality. Next is supporting the efficiency and productivity of the economy. So that is also true. If you dump them without segregating, without separating out, then there might be some important or costlier material which is present in the waste. So we need to segregate them properly. Next is gen- generation of employment and income. So usually when you create a municipal solid waste management facility, it consists of several components and which needs huge amount of manpower. So that gives jobs to certain number of people, and then that helps to enhance the overall economy, and at the same time that improves the employment and individual income. And apart from that, whatever management procedure we take, it should be economically viable, technically feasible, and socially acceptable. These are the 3 points which are most important to make sustainable practices and development. And that is why, again, I would like to mention economically viable, which is what we'll see in the as a first point. Then technically feasible. If it is economically viable, then we'll see and check its technical feasibility, and then once we see that it is it satisfies technical feasibility, we finally can talk about the acceptance in the society. If that doesn't happen, then also it's a problem. So you are adopting something which society is not accepting. So you need to modify, or you need to convince the local people by doing some social activities just to obtain their trust, or and then that acceptance would come within them. So that is why these are the different points we usually talk about when we discuss about municipal solid waste management. Now, so this is what is the, if you see, This is what is the process of solid waste management system. So these are the functional elements, a solid, and the various functional elements are actually shown over here, and their relation with each other. So the system, when put in place, facilitates the collection and disposal of solid waste in the community at minimal costs, while preserving public health and ensuring little or minimal adverse impact on the environment. And you can see, like, from the generation, we have waste generation is the first aspect of the waste management. Now in waste generation, wastes are generated at the start of any process. Like this relation, all of you, I guess, know very well. And so, once wastes are generated from any process, thereafter, at every stage, as a raw materials are converted into goods for consumption. And the source of waste generation, as we discussed before also, determines the quantity, composition, and waste characteristics. If I have to give an example, wastes are generated from households, commercial areas, industries, institutions, street cleaning, and municipal services. And the most important aspect, as from the waste generation, you will get an idea about the entire solid waste management scheme which you are going to develop. So with this, we'll stop today's discussion and we'll discuss in the next class. If you have any questions, you can ask me, or we'll simply stop it.